Hi, I'm Amy.
And I'm Katie, and this is Monumental, a small show about the big things God does in the lives of ordinary people.
Today we have a bonus episode for you. 2 weeks ago, you got to hear the amazing faith of Valerie Killingsworth, who died of lung cancer this past summer.
Well, last fall, after we interviewed her, we came back the next day with her and her daughter, Katie Crum, to hear Katie's perspective on what it was like finding out her mom had cancer. Valerie and Katie processed together how they've grown in faith through suffering.
So we have 4 kids. Eve was born 4 months ago. And so Ezra is 6, down to 4 months.
Who's asleep in your lap right here?
Little snores. And we have been married. Nate and I have been married 8.5 years. And I moved here when we got married. So I've lived here 8.5 years. And Nate's a teacher at school, and I stay home with the kids.
Well, would you mind telling us a little bit from your perspective about your mom's experience with cancer and how that impacted you? What was it like finding that news out?
So that was, like she had said, they called us saying she was having trouble breathing and something was going on, and they were looking into what it was, thinking it was pneumonia.
That was the Colorado trip.
Yes. So we all, I don't know if I suspected, sometimes you have that sense that it is worse than it seems at the moment. And I don't know that I had that because within our family, we've had some pretty major issues with other family members, or other scares, I should say, or big traumatic things happen that the Lord really has provided healing in some good ways. So as this unfolded, I think there was just a different sense that when the final diagnosis came, that it was a sense of course it's difficult and scary, but I think a real piece of the Lord has a lot of work to do. And this is going to be a very hard way to do it. But it's work that needs done. This is not our answer we wanted. But spiritually, I think it is going to affect everyone well, and has been a lot of opportunity, I think, to, I guess, suffer well, but really show, I think, what she said about the Lord providing a way to go through it with, that it is from Him and not something that is her fault, something that is any of our fault. It could be, but that wasn't the sense. It's just that He's done this work for His glory, and we don't have the answer. But it was just a clear picture that that's what it is, and it will be hard.
It seems that God gave, well, from your testimony yesterday, Valerie, you and your husband and Katie are saying now, pretty much from the beginning of finding this news out, this
is from God.
Peace from God, and this understanding right from the beginning that this was something that God was doing, and that gave you a peace.
It is. It's a hard thing to say that God will give you cancer. Doesn't make sense other than His glory is not our glory. It's not our ways. And what He counts useful is not what we count useful. It's like we like to be useful. And this is not really about that. It's about Him glorifying Himself and how that looks of people changing and trusting Him more and understanding Him more. Back when we got married and kind of coming to a deeper understanding of, I guess, God and Reformed faith, it really does, His glory being the utmost purpose for us really does take you out of the equation. He's still very caring and loving and personal in what He gives us to sanctify us and save us. But it's not about me and not about my self-esteem or about focusing on ourselves. It's all for His glory. And I didn't like that at the time, but there's a real comfort in it now as I see it play out, that He is so much better than we are at controlling our lives and knowing what we need, and all the things that are produced in my life that I had prayed for and had tried to do on my own really have come about through just walking in a very normal, mundane way of being married and having kids. And all of a sudden I see myself being more friendly and outgoing, which is always hard for me. And it's like, all those things I strive for a long time just come about naturally.
Yeah.
And that's sweet.
That is sweet.
And just that God's glory is not at odds with what is actually good for us. Because he really does.
Yeah.
It is his glory. It is for him. But it does make us happier people.
It does.
In the long run, it makes us joyful. It is actually for our good.
Right.
And we are refined by it.
I think it was said in the sermon this morning, we spend a lot of our life trying to get out of suffering, trying to prevent suffering, trying to, especially with a mom with children, let's make this easier. Let's keep them from going through this struggle. And, I think it's this that has taken it for me to realize this is part of his plan. And so I wouldn't really want to choose my way if I could choose my way.
Right. Well, Katie, getting back to your story a little bit, what has it been like for you watching your mom suffer with cancer?
It has kind of brought around her life, I think, to see her diligence in her time in the Word and prayer and teaching us, and I think speaking more truth and that consistency that she's had, not perfectly by any means. I mean, obviously comes and goes for all of us. I mean, she's a mom. But from a daughter's perspective, even seeing that inconsistency, this has really brought about the testing of her faith. And it really gives it a different purpose of really just the diligence she has done in her life is paying off. To be steady, to know the Word, to be faithful in prayer, to have good friends, be part of a church. And
so how has it challenged or strengthened your faith?
It has been, I think she's the last person we all expected, to get sick or have cancer. It's just changed what we expected or what you imagine in life.
Yeah.
And it will be really hard to live without her. It was very hard. The realization of one night just seeing that the little kids won't remember her. That is a very hard reality to come to terms with, because she is so special and energetic, and they love when she comes, or getting, it's very special. But and then last year this time I got pregnant, which was very hard in the sense of trying to handle emotions, I guess grieving, and I kind of go inside myself when I'm pregnant. It's very hard to process a lot, and I think thankfully her cancer started getting a little better at that point. So it was nice not to have to deal with the intensity of it through that. So, but God is faithful to give us that break. I think that's kind of where we all are at this point, is everyone's getting a breather in it, which is very nice to get to enjoy one another and also be regrounded and kind of get our feet back under us. And then before, the intensity will come again as the cancer progresses, which shows every indication of doing in the future, but we are so glad that it's not at the moment. And we still pray for a miracle, and I don't doubt that could happen, but it doesn't seem that that's the answer we're going to get. So
I remember, I guess it would have been a little over a year ago, or well, it was probably closer to when you were first diagnosed, but that Jenna was pregnant.
Yes.
And just praying that you would get to meet that grandbaby.
Yes. Yeah.
And now you've gotten to meet a second one.
Right.
And it's just so, sweet to see that God has
It really is.
given that. Yeah.
Yep.
You had said yesterday about how being kind of the Killingsworth family known in, what's your actual town you're in?
Walnut Grove.
Walnut Grove. Just have living there for such a long time that y'all's testimony is pretty widespread. And how you said you've had people who you don't even know come up to you and talk to you, or tell you they were praying for you, or well, Katie, you said that it just seems like God is working beyond just our family, and he had a lot to do in our family and with us individually, but beyond that. Could you amplify, explain that?
We stand on some pretty tall shoulders. We're the recipients of several generations.
Yeah, it's really the generational blessing.
Yes.
It's very evident. There's really been no sickness or trauma in our family.
And
Really.
I think God is going to use this to open our eyes in a different way and see that. But his grandfather, grandmother, and my husband's father, Katie's grandfather, and grandmother, it's just a godly line. And it helps when you give your children some shoulders to stand on.
Yeah.
Then when they go through, I mean,
Yeah.
I was already down the road in that because of their lives. So
It's clear that when he asks something of us, then brings it our way, he will be faithful and walk us through it in very sweet ways. He's not a sadistic or angry God at us. He really does walk us through it. And I think some ways for me have been, I think, a more tender heart. Just good. I cry easier than I used to, which I've always struggled with, to be sympathetic with people. And this is such a big thing. You can't overcome it.
Yeah.
Like it really does soften us, but I think that's good. It is good. And I'm glad for it. And I don't have to do it alone, And just having just the creating memories, can be kind of a sentimental cliche thing to do, but it's true.
It's a scrapbook company
right,
name.
Yeah, it's become really significant and important and
But,
not meaningless to spend a lot of time decorating your house for Christmas together, or it's like, this is important and good times to teach people things and look back on.
Yeah.
So
How has it changed your perspective of suffering?
well, it definitely has. I think I was raised believing you do things right, you'll be blessed.
yeah.
Things don't go right,
You did something wrong.
wrong, and that's just, I don't believe that anymore. I just believe God's got a journey for each of us, and this one is mine, and I just want to walk through it, giving Him glory. And I do believe He says, "There's no good will I withhold from them that walk uprightly," and so He would call this cancer good right now
Right.
in my life. And so it makes suffering fit better in my thinking and in my acceptance of it, and just from understanding God's purpose in suffering.
Right.
That makes a big difference.
Yeah.
So many people have come up to me. Well, I say that loosely, so many, but some have come up to me and said, not you, anybody but you. This is, I don't understand. And so I think it's challenging their faith.
Yeah.
And challenging their theology.
Yeah.
Of that.
What do you say to them when they say that?
I say, why not? Why not me?
Yeah.
And God's got a plan for this, and we just want to walk in that plan. But it's nothing I have done to be good enough to not have cancer, because that's just not how God works. And so, and some will come up and say, don't talk that way. Don't say it out loud.
Just be positive.
Yeah, and because if you do, you're bringing it on yourself. And my sister helped give me an answer for that. Is that there is no power in my words. Whether I say it right or wrong, there's just no power in it. There's only power in His words. And so that's helped me have an answer. And I'm glad He doesn't have to count on my words or my prayers or my, not even my faith, know. Faith He's building in me.
Yeah.
But there's not a certain proportion of faith that's going to turn this around.
Right.
Only if God.
It's not our work, even
Yeah.
that. It's His gift.
Yeah.
But I'm not counting on me for this. And so, I don't know. I don't say it all right. That's the truth. I get caught off guard all the time going, oh, but that's, I know in my heart that's not right. But God's got to bring them in their journey. And He may be using my life, watching, because the joy of the Lord is my strength.
Yeah.
And so when that joy comes forth, then I think it makes a difference in somebody else's life.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and we still have a lot harder. This has been hard, but the hardest part is still yet to come.
you said that about your dad yesterday. I said I haven't sensed anger.
I don't think anybody's bitter so far.
Yeah, no,
And
but we need to be on guard,
We do.
because
Yeah.
when it gets harder or the end comes, then we need to realize that could switch at any. The temptation will be there
Sin is always crouching at our door.
Yesterday, you also mentioned, Katie, about just daily disciplines and being faithful in the mundane.
Yeah, I think I said something along the lines of, this is a trial and it can be somewhat glamorized. I'm not sure that's the right word. Even doing a podcast about it, it's like getting extra attention on something that is hard. And it really is just hard. But there has been, it can look like God only provides, or like submitting to His plan only comes when it's really difficult. But I don't think that's true. I think, especially watching my mom growing up, doing the daily disciplines of guarding your heart, learning the Word, praying, being faithful in prayer, and choosing, in a sense, hope and trust in God to work all things for our good, as it says, but even through, just the people that we're around, the location we are in, all the different factors that play into one situation and one event. And choosing to think on those things that God has given, not try to find an answer necessarily. All of that plays out in these difficult times when it is tested. And that is submitting to His will in a way that this is as well. And it's tried, and so far I think everyone is being found faithful, especially by God's help. But those are not insignificant daily steps to do. It's practice that really makes a difference when you suffer. And
if we expect that when the real challenges come, that we'll just master them wonderfully. If we haven't been faithful all along, then we're kind of fooling ourselves.
That was a hard thing last year with being pregnant. I felt like I had a lot of intense fatigue with this pregnancy, and really the basics of caring for everybody was all that was required or that I could do. And I dropped out of Bible study some point in the year, and so then I felt like there wasn't going to be any fruit from that year, really. It's kind of what it started feeling like. And
besides the sweet baby you're holding.
Which was enough, but it just kind of felt like I was just sort of numb to many things, especially the Word, and tried to read my Bible, but it was just really hard to do any of it. So then I felt like I was slipping back, and I didn't really even care. So thankfully that was a lot of just pregnancy related, and I think I wasn't being asked to do extra. It was just keep working and trusting that God would even use this. But it was evident that that exercise and trusting God even in that plays out. And 4 months out of pregnancy, I can tell that it was a lot just pregnancy. But using suffering also can jumpstart that again very quickly. Having to get back into the difficulty, I can see that there's good fruit, and that's an encouragement to keep going and to have hope.
You also mentioned about, I'm just trying to kind of bring back our conversation from yesterday, but you talked about remembering an extra measure of comfort that God gives in hard times. You talked about a verse from Hosea.
I should pull that up more. But
do you know what the verse is?
It's Hosea, I think it might be 6:1-3. It's been I think it was 2 years ago that in the midst of a really difficult time, it came up, and it has stuck with me throughout, to where it says, He will wound us so that He may heal us, is really the gist of it. And then when my third born was born, he had some difficulties and was, life flighted up to Indianapolis to the hospital, and I stayed back because I just had surgery to have him, and there was just a real sense of comfort of the Spirit enabling me to rest in that whole situation. And I realized then that He doesn't leave you. He really will walk in an extra measure with you when He asks difficult things. And that was just a medical problem, and didn't have things to do with people's sin and, or like difficult marriages or things. But despite the circumstances, He still brings about suffering and really painful things so that He can fix it in a way. And you get a sense of peace from Him, and from that you would not get any other way. You don't know Him in that way outside of having to face really traumatic. And that stuck with me, to where in the future, no matter what comes, and this is what has come, this cancer, is that He will comfort in a supernatural way, which is helpful in thinking through having faith for other people. Like, especially for my dad, I think it's going to hit him hardest, and it's going to be very hard, and it is hard to have faith for others. But remembering that that's how I felt in really difficult times, and that's what He does.
It's the same God, same Father.
Yes, and that's what He promises. And there's every reason to expect that from Him.
That's what's waiting for you.
Yes. To move forward in that, have that kind of faith and confidence in Him.
So, Valerie, yesterday then, you started talking about contentment, the importance of contentment, and the book that you had read. Would you just talk about that a little bit again?
Was that the Trusting God?
Yeah, I think that was the one you mentioned.
Yes, that several years ago really got me thinking, and I gave that book away a lot as gifts, and I know it's helped others, but trust is a big word when you have to really trust. You know, it's an easy thing to say, but it's trusting God with whatever He brings your way. And so that brings contentment when you can do that. You know, and contentment, well, it's a beautiful thing to have. And it, you know, what's the verse? Contentment with godliness is, and I can't remember the exact verse, but it's a gift to give to yourself, to give to others, to be content with where God's got you. And if there's sin, you ask forgiveness and you get up and go again. You know, and there very well could be some sin that the Holy Spirit will bring to mind to get right. And I don't want to be content with sin. Right. I just want to be content with God.
Yeah.
But
and how He's working and what He's doing.
And it, you know, and I said, I thought yesterday after I left, and well, I'm on a journey, and I'm sure not through the journey. And so I still need prayer because this could change at any time. And what looks like I can handle right now, I might not be able to. And so the prayers of others are going to mean a whole lot through that. But, and their prayers for healing are precious to me.
Yeah, that's what we all still pray. I have to remind myself to pray for healing because while He very likely won't in this, but that's okay. It's not a negative thought. It just seems like that's the work He's going to do this time is to face death. But we still pray. We still want people to pray for that because that's what we hope.
Yeah, and I believe as long as there is breath and life, we're to pray for that. And at the same time, balance that out with God, I'm yours.
Yes. Let your will be done.
Yes, definitely. And so pray that in this journey that we do not walk in sin or turn towards sin in this. But I just don't want anybody to think that I've got all the answers and got this solved and got this figured out, because I don't. You know, it is a journey, and He's kind of given us a breather right now. I've been able to spend a lot of time with friends and go places. But it may not always be that way. And so I'm thankful for the journey, but I want prayers for the journey too. And for my children, and especially for my husband. Yeah. And
I was thinking of remembering a story or a moment, I guess, that we were having an evening service here at church, which we don't have hardly ever. So it must have been Thanksgiving, to where just maybe an hour before the service, they texted us with news that I think the brain cancer was evident or growing, something along those lines. And so, of course, that was really difficult, but that service ended with the hymn Abide With Me. And I was looking up those lyrics of how in life and death, O Lord, abide with me, and abide with me falls fast the evening tide. And at that point, typically brain cancer takes your life in up to 4 months. And so that's what we were looking at, you know, a swift cancer. And thankfully it hasn't been. But I just remember how at the end of that, it was, I think Jenna and I both were in tears, obviously. But I think Jody had to sing that. And we were like, how is he doing?
How is he doing this?
I was like leading the service. But it was just, hold thou thy cross before my closing eyes, shine through the gloom and point me to the skies. Heaven's morning breaks and earth's vain shadows flee. In life and death, O Lord, abide with me. So I guess, another discipline. We keep bringing up hymns and scriptures, but really all those things are important, helpful to know. Yes.
Hide in our hearts.
We feel silly sometimes doing it, I think, because it's countercultural to just teach your kids hymns or just, but it's really helpful to have those deeper lyrics sometimes. And so I just remembered that being a difficult time, and this is a difficult path to walk down. And we're talking a lot about the faithfulness of God, but it still is, there's a lot of temptation to be bitter or to give in and to think I shouldn't have to live without my mom. It's like, as an adult, it's even important. It's so helpful, but that's not the way to think about it. It's really what it comes down to. Those are not the questions to ask in a tragedy or a difficulty. But it just to remember that's God's purpose is much bigger and greater. Every day, this does not really look like this conversation.
Right.
Like, I do this maybe once a day, at best. But it matters, like, apparently.
It matters.
Because it's holding true. And we have to rely on Him.
And the mundane things that you mentioned, those are the biggest battles, really.
They are.
They're the hardest part to do.
Yeah.
And it...
and it's really hard with little kids. It was the first, phase of grieving, I guess, cancer, having to deal with children's emotions and your own. And how is that going to look, in your home? Because you really have to rely on God, because I have very emotional children. I'm sure they all are, but mine, specifically. So, that is a struggle, and having faith to persevere and I guess abide in that moment and not try to worry, or am I doing everything they need? Just those mundane daily tasks. It's important.
The Lord is my shepherd, there's nothing I lack. He makes me lie down in rich pastures of green. He fills me with goodness and doesn't hold back. I'm led beside rivers of water serene. Oh, surely the goodness and love of the Lord will follow me all of the rest of my days. For I'm going to dwell in the house of the Lord, to eat from His table and sing to His praise.
Monumental is hosted by Katie Walker and Amy Molina. It is produced and edited by Katie Walker, and it is executive produced by Nathan Alberson and Jake Menzel. If you like the show, please don't forget to rate and review in the app of your choice. And if you're interested in more great content, including articles and other podcasts, please visit warhornmedia.com.
My hope is the Lord. His name is His bond, and His word is my guide. Oh, surely the goodness and love of the Lord